Having a degree means that you learned enough to regurgitate to pass the test and get the grades. It does not mean that you actually can do the job. Starting a business should not be something that's hard for you, even if you need to scale your business. Do me a favor right now. Shoot me a DM on Instagram with the word coach at @TheBusinessBully, and we'll see what we can make happen. What we have here is a failure to compensate. It's time somebody had this conversation with you. Now, full disclosure, I come from a long line of educators. I think education has its place. I do not believe that you shouldn't be educated. And I've talked about this on this channel before, but I just came across this Newsweek article that's talking about how communications degrees and liberal arts degrees are slowly but surely losing their value when it comes to salaries in the marketplace. A communications degree is worth 2.5% less than what it was in 2024. And so my thing to you is a simple question that I don't think anybody has posed to your face. And it is, are you going to work to pay off school, or is school paying off you? Is it paying off for you? Are you in a place where you're better off? Is what you have commonplace, or is it a commodity? And we don't in this country specifically, and not exclusively, but I'm specifically speaking to Black people, come across and think about the choices we make when it comes to our vocation. We just say, I'm going to major in underwater basket weaving with a minor in absolute uselessness. And then we can't figure out why we're overworked and underpaid and why we are here today and gone this afternoon. The job market no longer needs somebody who can do the same thing that another 350,000 people can do. You have to start thinking practically. And even if you have a communications degree or a liberal arts degree, what are you doing with that degree that's going to bring some value? Now, are there exceptions to the rule? Because I know there's somebody out there right now in the comments, because you love to say things to me in the comments like, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And every time I come on here, he's saying some stuff and I don't agree with it because my cousin Winky did this, that, and the third. Full disclosure. I've got a communications degree. I've got an English degree. I've got a business degree. I have more degrees than the thermometer, but here's the gag. I've been in the professional communications business since I was 9 years old. So from 1987 till right now, I've been at this. So to put that another way, since Ronald Reagan was telling people to tear down the Berlin Wall, I've been a professional broadcaster. I am the exception and not the rule. We have to stop playing in the margins about this one particular exceptional person and start looking at what's happening as a whole. Do you not realize that there are so many of us who have bad credit from the time that we're 21 to the time that we're 53 because of a horrible lopsided debt to income ratio, primarily because of predatory student loans? And it's okay to have a student loan. Student loans is how we all, well, most of us got through college. That, work study, partial scholarships, full scholarships in some cases. But there's nothing wrong with a student loan that you're able to pay off. One of the very first conversations I had with former First Lady Michelle Obama was, I just got finished paying off me and Barack's student loans. And I'm like, daggone, like y'all 50. And I was, well within my late 20s, early 30s at the time. But it was a real moment for me because I understood that a lot of people carry around debt. And also, being a doctor isn't going to solve all your problems either, because a lot of doctors spend their first 10 to 15 years, depending on their specialty, in debt too, right? Plus, you got to look a certain way, act a certain way. You got to go through all these different things. What are you doing with your degree? Also, how are you using your education to give back to the people who do not have the opportunity to be educated on your level? So many people I see all up on YouTube, all up on X, all up on Instagram talking about, I have a degree. I fired a young lady one time because she had said to me, well, I have experience because I have a degree. I was like, I was your professor. You have no experience. You getting a degree is getting a driver's license. It doesn't mean that you're Mario Andretti. It does not mean that you're Ricky Bobby and you're going to win in Talladega Nights. It's just not happening that way. Having a degree means that you learned enough to regurgitate to pass the test and get the grades. It does not mean that you actually can do the job. How are you benefiting other Black people? We don't do that. I see so many other people, so many other marginalized groups, if you believe you're marginalized, and I think we do a great job of putting ourselves in the margins by listening to other people who benefit from the notion that we're all simultaneously oppressed. What are we doing? Because when you see other groups, they'll go out and they'll get an education and they'll come back and they'll teach their cousins, they'll teach their brothers, they'll teach their mamas, they will teach their community the skills. The skills are the thing, right? A skilled laborer is never broke. I remember being on a Wawa. For those of you who don't know what a Wawa is, it's a convenience store primarily located on the East Coast, and it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm on my way to the airport to go speak at a university, and there was a guy in front of me in line getting his coffee. And this one kid was talking behind the register to one of his coworkers, and he was saying, man, I would kill to just make, another $2 an hour. And the guy in front of me, who clearly, had paint splattered overalls, looked like a working man, had hard leathered hands. He says to him, he says, listen, how old are you? He says, I'm 22. He said, perfect. He's like, I can offer you a job right now if you're willing to paint bridges. He's like, paint bridges? Why would I do that? He said, well, because it starts at $65 an hour for the untrained. And then once you're training, you've got about 6 months experience. That goes up to $127 an hour. If you want to start, I can get you started tomorrow. I never saw that guy who made that offer to that young man again. I still see that young man every day when I get my coffee. Sometimes it's not about the degree. It's about the degree you're willing to go in order to make an impact to change the trajectory of your life, to change the trajectory of your family's direction, and to change your trajectory at the bank. It's about your ability to transmit and transpose your hard-earned skills into cold, hard cash. And we don't do that, but we love talking about our degrees. We love talking about how much education we have, and we love quoting this, that, and the third. But in a world that has Khan Academy, in a world that you can get a Harvard certificate for less than 10 grand, I'm trying to understand why we're spending so much time talking about our degrees we have and not what we've done with them. It doesn't matter if you are a person that can bend steel with their bare hands, if you're not building anything. You're not building a railroad, you're not constructing a business, you're not doing anything to better your community. But what I see all the time is that the universities are expanding, the churches are expanding, the liquor stores are expanding, the weed spots, and when I say that, I'm talking about the dispensaries, all of them are expanding. But you know what's contracting? Positive, upwardly Black people making moves to impact everybody throughout the diaspora. But you know what I do see a lot of? A lot of people with, $138 worth of podcast equipment with their microphones talking about how they want a high value man or what some woman brings to the table. But yet and still, you haven't brought anything to the table for your community except for a $130,000 receipt printed on 10-cent parchment that you call a degree. At what point do you realize the degree is only as good as the person willing to use it? And when will you start making that change? By the way, I need you to comment, rate, and subscribe. Make sure you share the channel with absolutely everybody. If you've got a question, you can always find me, Dave at businessbullyshow.com. I'll see you next time.